Hey, you guys, we have breaking news with Judge Hatchett and her son Charles Johnson in regards to Kyira Dixon Johnson. You definitely don't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
Hey, what's up, world? I'm Kat Harvey, the CEO of the top-rated show, KatHarveySNL, the Kat Harvey Show, and I'm so excited to have these two guests on with me. It's bittersweet, but I mean, their story definitely needs to be told. I think God has a plan for all of us, sometimes whether we like it or not, and I'm so excited, like I said, to have them on. Please welcome the Honorable Miss Judge Glenda Hatchett and her son, Charles Johnson the fourth. How are you guys doing today?
We're hanging in here. We
Yeah,
are pleased to be with you this afternoon.
really. And thank you, Kat, so much for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. And so, I want to dive right into it. So can you guys, give people a brief synopsis of, what has happened to you guys and how you guys are handling it right now?
Sure. So I'll kind of jump in. My wife, Kyira Dixon Johnson, we are blessed to have, we're expecting our second son. And father, you want the best for your son and you want the best for your family. So we had planned to have a routine scheduled C-section at Cedar Sinai Medical Center. So we're talking about a woman who was not only in good health, Kat, but in exceptional health. And once again, going in for a routine scheduled C-section. And to condense this for your listeners, she walked in there. The baby wasn't in distress. And essentially shortly after the procedure, they noticed that she was bleeding internally, which is not abnormal, completely abnormal for a procedure like that. But long story short is that without delving into too many of the details of what happened, is that she was allowed for her condition to deteriorate and to bleed internally for more than 10 hours at Cedar Sinai while my family and I begged them to do something. And essentially she passed away, due to their negligence.
Kat, I will add that, millions of people know me as Judge Hatchett, but I really stepped forward on this as both a mother, a grandmother. And this will be the most important case I will ever be involved in my life. For this phenomenal, dynamic woman to walk into this hospital and never walk out is not acceptable. This could have been preventable. It could have been prevented, and it should have been prevented because they knew shortly after Langston's birth that there was some bleeding somewhere. And so you got to figure out what there is and you go in and fix it. And what we know is that had she been taken back into surgery earlier, she would be alive now. And we have these two precious little boys. Charles V was 18 months old at the time that his mother died. And of course, Langston was just a few hours old. And so now you have these little boys who will never have their mother. My son, who is dealing with unimaginable pain, and just the shock of it all, to want the best for his wife, to want the best for his family, and then for her to die under these circumstances is not only unacceptable, but it has to be a story that's told. Because at the end of the day, Kat, we don't want any other family to go through what they have gone through. Let me also add that the complaint was purposely written so that it is step by step by step by step of the last hours of her life. This is not something that we guess about or we think about. These are absolute points that really follow the medical records of Cedar Sinai Hospital and the people who were attending to her. And so anybody can pick up this complaint. It's public record, filed in the Superior Court in California. And we purposely did that because we didn't want there to be any question about what happened to Kyira. And we also want there to be answers, and we want there to be accountability so that nobody else suffers this.
Right. And, I just want to share some pertinent information. So I kind of understand what you guys are feeling because 10 years ago, my aunt actually passed away. She had a heart problem. And basically, long story short, in DC, She had a young daughter. Her daughter's about 27, my age right now, with 3 kids that she never got them in. Basically, they gave her too much medicine for her heart problems, and they sent her right home, and she died the following day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that's your wife and everything, but I can definitely relate, which is why.
Of course.
And like I said, I've never shared that with anybody. So as soon as I heard it, even though I kind of shy away from stuff like this, because I know a lot of people do things like this for ratings, and you know, that's not me at all. But when I first heard, I said, oh my God, I got to have them. So I can definitely, you know, relate to what you guys are going through right now. So, you know, just to talk about the bright side, you know, tell people a little bit of the type of person she was.
Absolutely. So this was, you know, and I know this is the cliche thing to say, and the politically correct thing to say about a husband say about his wife, but she was absolutely the most amazing woman I've ever met in my life. We're talking about a woman that spoke 5 languages, that was an incredible entrepreneur, an incredible mother, traveled the world. She was a licensed pilot, a solo skydiver, and, you know, ran marathons, raced cars, just a phenomenal person, but extremely kind, extremely giving. And, you know, somebody that really just, you know, changed my life and taught me so much about, you know, about love, about being a husband, about being a man, you know, and just, and it's interesting even to this day, like her, you know, she is not here physically, so much of her spirit is still very much extremely present.
So I watched you guys before I took the interview just to see how you guys maneuver and act. And I'm spiritual. I believe in God as well. No atheists over here. So, you know, what are your conversations with God like right now?
Wow. That's you know what? It's interesting, Kat. I've done a lot of media since last week about this. Nobody has ever asked me a question. I think that's really probably the best question I've been asked.
I think so too.
And you know, it's interesting because, you know, my conversations with God are the ones that I have with my sons when we pray together. And we ask, you know, we pray for everybody else around us, we pray for strength, but we ask, we thank God for mommy because we know that she's our angel and she watches over us. And, you know, we ask God for the strength and the ability and everything that we need to make her proud. That's what we ask God for. And I ask God that he will always keep myself and my 2 sons extremely close, and there will always be a team. And just to digress a little bit off of that subject, my personal conversations with God is Kyira and myself, and I say this proudly and I say this boldly, that we always talked about, Kat, about raising strong Black men that would change the world. And I don't flinch when I say that. Not kids that would be smart, not kids that would be successful, not kids that would be great, kids that would change, men that would change the world. And that's what we prayed for before my sons came into the world. And so that's still my consistent prayer when I pray, as I pray for that God will give me everything on my journey as a single father, everything that I need to be the best father to them, to nurture their gifts so that they can grow to be these magnificent men that will change the world. And so to drill down a little bit, and maybe this will be helpful for some other people that may have been, I know that you just shared your story about grieving, that this will be kind of helpful. I hope to be able to share this, and this will be helpful with other people that may be going through loss or grieving in their own way. Is that for me, what's been helpful in my prayer and my conversation with God is I stay away from why, right? Because why will drive you crazy. Like, why did this happen to my wife? Why did this happen to somebody so beautiful? Why did this happen? And I pray for answers and direction as far as how, right? Meaning, how do I get through this? How can I be the best father that I can be? How do I raise my sons consistent with the values and the ideals that my wife would want, right? So I stay away from that why and I focus on the how.
So do you guys think race had anything to do with this situation?
I'll tell you candidly, that is something that has crossed my mind. That is something that has crossed my mind. But to be honest, Kat, and I know that you've seen the complaint, is that when we talk about this, what happened to Kyira and what took place on April 12th, is that the way that this has been described to me by people that are experts in the area of labor and delivery is that this is not a medical tragedy. This is a medical catastrophe, right?
Should have never happened.
It should have never happened.
Never.
And that so many things went wrong at so many different junctures, so that.
And there were so many places that they could have intervened to save her life.
And so for me, when I take a look and I look at race in the grand scheme of all the things that took place, it really does seem minuscule, right? That to think that race, when you look at the level of neglect, when you look at the level of incompetence in certain places, to think that race had something to do with it, it really is a small factor. And because of the things that were so graphic and the level of things that transpired, it's far down the trough, if you will, if that makes sense. I know that's, and I'm not somebody, and I'll be honest with you, I am unapologetically Black. I am unapologetically married to a beautiful Black woman, and I don't shy away from issues of race. But when we look at this situation, it is like the fact race playing into the rest of the stuff that happened is just like, it's really.
It's not the overarching issue.
It's definitely, yeah, I don't think so.
It's not.
I don't think so.
So have any of the doctors or members of, well, you know, what happens, anybody come forward to you guys and in private, you know, to take responsibility? Has anybody come forth with that?
No, we had minimal conversations shortly after the event when they did express their condolences, and I guess what you call the company line. But shortly after that, they shut off all communication with us and told us that any communication that we had moving forward would have to be through the attorney for the hospital's insurance company. So the first time, Kat, that we heard any response or any level of response or information about what happened to Kyira was literally last Friday, when I was sitting on the couch doing an interview at Headline News. And Headline News had to reach out to them for them to make a statement about what happened to my wife.
And it wasn't a statement about what happened.
It wasn't a statement about what happened. It was a very political statement about their policies and procedures and yada, yada, yada. So, and I'm sure if you reached out to them, they would give you the exact same statement.
Okay. So, you know, moving forward now, you know, what are some of the things that you have to do as far as piecing together whatever evidence to support your case? So what are the next steps now that you guys have to take?
Well, I think that's something that has been masterfully done by the team that we have in place. You know, if this is something that goes to trials, I'm sure there will be, you know, interviews with people that were involved and additional, you know, maybe subpoenas for documents. But the thing that's interesting about this case, Kat, is that the majority of the information that's required is right there in those medical records. And so when we were able to file this lawsuit, and as Judge mentioned, I call Judge, it's so interesting when it's business, it's Judge when we're sitting in this environment, it's Mom, right? So, so the majority of the stuff has already been put together for now, because Michael Oren, who is representing our family on this matter, has done a masterful job of putting together a document that reads like a narrative versus a lawsuit, so that, as she said, anybody can pick this up and be shocked and appalled at what happened. And it clearly speaks for itself. Like, it's really clearly outlined. So that's been done. And so, you know, and who knows, this may be something that goes all the way to trial. And I have, you know, and I will loudly and proudly tell my story and Kyra's story, if that's what this comes to. But it's important for me, more important than this is something that, and I'll share with you, I'm a very private person. And it's interesting having, I'm a very, very private person. So I was, very prayerful and very reluctant to come forward with this about, just about everything. But the thing that I realized, Kat, is that this is so much bigger than just me and my family. And the reality of the situation is that so many people and so many families get railroaded when things like this happen. And they don't have the resources to have a mother that has a platform and have the opportunities to be able to reach out to somebody like yourself to even get their voice heard, right? So I'm not only committed to advocating for my wife and speaking Kyra's name, but this is important that this doesn't happen to any other families, because what we're learning from this, Kat, is that things like this are happening far too often to women. We're going into situations that are supposed to be routine, and they're ending up having tragic outcomes. So, that's where I'm proud to stand and give voice to these issues. I refuse to let my wife sacrifice anything.
Okay. I just want to shift gears a little bit. And as you know, speaking, we all are Black.
Yes.
And, me being young, I know a lot of people focus so much on house, cars, clothes, but fairly few of us, being African Americans, put and invest in our money in life insurance. So can you talk about the importance of having that done, especially if you're married or single? Because a lot of people don't. They don't think
you ask some of the most profound questions. I'm so glad that you do, because I think that's an excellent point. Particularly for our people, is I can't stress enough the importance of not living life like you have an invincibility complex, is having your affairs in order, and making sure that you have policies in place that will ensure that your loved ones will be taken care of. I think that's an exceptional point. I think that's something that we really need to drill home. And that's also a way, too, that it's a difference in our community and other communities, that other communities put a financial floor under the next generation. And that's how they're able to continuously have generational wealth, is when one person transitions, there is a financial floor of stability under the next generation. So I can't stress that enough. That's an excellent point, Kat. I'm glad that you brought that up for your listeners' benefit.
And I would also add, Kat, that we in our community don't write wills, and that we don't do planning. And even something as, I shouldn't say simple, but a living will. I have a living will on all the hospitals, emergency rooms, about what my desire, my wishes are if I were to become ill and certain things happen. But also, just people say, well, Judge, I don't have anything, I don't need a will. Yes, you do. Yeah. Even the most simple situation, and particularly if you have children, you need to have a will so that it's very clear about what you want for your children. And it just makes things a lot easier. And even practical things like insurance on your job. I have a client now, 33, fabulous woman, died tragically, but she forgot to designate a beneficiary on her insurance policy on her job. And so, you just got to think about it. Or if you get a divorce from somebody and you have your former husband or wife's name on that, I've had those cases come up in court. So not to get too involved in that, but insurance is important. Beneficiaries, particularly for your benefits at work, whether it's your disability, life insurance, whatever, and very important to have a will.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody knows where it is.
Right, definitely that. Last two questions, so do you guys think you will ever get peace from the situation when you guys do get it resolved?
Now this is, oh, wow, that's tough. This is something that will never, ever, no. short answer is no. I don't think that I'll ever have peace. I think that there will always be an empty table, an empty chair at the table on holidays. You know, in my mind's eye, like people talk about how fast kids grow up, and you never understand it till you have them, right? And I think about, you know, graduation and weddings and, you know, all these amazing, wonderful things and milestones that parents should be able to celebrate with their children. And so when I think about Kyira not being robbed of that, I don't think that there's anything that could, you know, could make that, take that pain away or fill that void, right? And, you know, I expressed and I share, it's interesting, share with you things that I've said, that I'll say to you that I haven't said to other media outlets, is that for me, it's a civil lawsuit, but it's not about civil damages for me, right? So for me, I've been blessed. My kids are going to eat tomorrow. And so for me, the accountability is what's important, right? Making sure that there are policies, procedures that are put in place to make sure that a perfectly healthy woman never ever walks into not only Cedar Sinai, but any other hospital around this country. And what happened to my wife never ever happens again. That's what's important to me, right? And you talk about a little bit about the materialistic things and things of that nature, and all that's cool. And I don't knock anybody that desires that, and certainly I'm somebody that enjoys those things too. But you never know how unimportant those things are until something that is priceless or you can't even ever put a value on is taken from you, right? You never understand those things. And people who, unfortunately, there are people who are your listeners that I know that resonates with, and it may be even, you know, painful to hear, but no, I don't think I'll ever have peace from the situation. I know that I'll never have peace from the situation.
I look at my son, I look at my precious grandsons, and it hit me, for some reason this morning, it hit me early this morning, that it is not just this generation, it's all the generations. And so I have a very close relationship with my grandsons, which I'm very grateful for, but their children will never know their grandmother. I mean, they will never know Kyira. Their children will never know their great-grandmother. My mother is still alive, and so my grandsons know their great-grandmother. And I was just thinking about how this is just generation after generation after generation, where her loss will affect generations, not just the pain that we as a family are experiencing now. And there's nothing to fix that. There's just nothing to fix that. So for me, the answer is emphatically, this will always be on my heart. And I can't imagine ever a time that this will not be on my heart for forever.
So, you know, wrapping up, so can you tell people, you know, how they can support you guys, or you guys have anything coming up that people should be aware?
Yeah, so I would ask people, and first I just want to thank you. I want to thank your listeners, everybody that has sent messages over social media. I mean, the outpouring of love and support has been tremendous, and we're grateful for that. On behalf of myself and my family, I want to thank everybody for that. It's my little guy in the background. So
it's okay, Kenya.
So he wanted to make sure he chimed in. He was saying thank you as well.
Oh, tell him I said thank you.
Yeah, he was saying thank you as well. So for me, what I would ask from the community is two things. One, speak Kyira Dixon Johnson's name, right? For the people that support Cedar Sinai with their giving, for the people that patronize it as patients. When you set foot in that hospital, ask what happened to Kyira Dixon Johnson. Make them explain it to you. Okay? Secondly, ask them what is being done to make sure that this never happens to your loved one or it never happens to anyone else. If what I would ask is that we will be, I'm not a big social media guy, but people who like to keep up with the progress of what's going on, we're definitely sharing stuff about Kyira and information about different things coming up on Judge Hatchett's social media, which is the Judge Hatchett, THE Judge JUJ. I'm sorry, the Judge Hatchett, HATCHETT, on both Twitter and Instagram. So that's how you can follow us. But it's interesting that, and if you do have a story of loss or things that happen to you, please share it with us, because we're
hearing from a lot of
people that are dealing with stuff that is eerily similar, not only at Cedar Sinai Medical Center, but all over the country. We hope that we can be a voice and give voice to not only this situation, but other people as well.
Okay. Well, I thank you both for your time today. I truly appreciate it. It's one of the things you can't get back, so I definitely don't take for granted your time. I know God has his hands on both of you guys, and I'll continue to keep you in my prayers.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. And like I said, when you guys do get everything resolved, I would love to have you guys come back and, let everybody know, the outcome of the situation. But I just had to say that. Before we log off. So thank you guys.
Thank you very much, Kat. And thank you, everybody listening. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support.
Again, I want to thank Judge Hatchett and her son, Charles Johnson, for coming on my show today to share their exclusive story on my show. Again, make sure you guys continue to show your support by using the hashtag for Kyira and hashtag shame on Cedar so that this doesn't happen to anybody else. We will continue to keep the Hatchett family in our prayers. Thank you.